Once upon a time, in a quiet valley bordered by endless fields and clear rivers, there lived a young man named Elias. He was 25, strong in body, yet weary in spirit. His village was peaceful, but his inner world was not. Every morning, he woke up with the same heaviness in his chest. His mind was always full, overflowing with worries, memories, and questions he could not answer. Elias worked as a carpenter, shaping wood into beautiful creations. But even while carving delicate patterns, his hands trembled. Thoughts rushed through his mind without pause. One moment, he regretted something he said years ago. The next moment, he feared what might happen tomorrow. His head felt crowded, like a room filled with people talking loudly all at once. No matter how hard he tried, he could not silence them. He envied the villagers who laughed freely and slept peacefully at night. He wondered how they managed to live so simply. He wondered how their minds were so clear while his was always tense. He told himself that maybe his mind was different. Maybe he was born this way. Yet deep inside, he hoped for a way out. One evening, after a long day of work, Elias sat beside the river. The moon reflected on the water like a silver plate. The flow of the river was steady, calm, and silent. Watching it gave him a strange feeling of relief. But the moments of calm never lasted. Soon the familiar noise returned in his head, pulling him back into the fog of his worries. He closed his eyes, wishing for quiet, but the noise grew even louder. In that moment, an old fisherman walking nearby noticed Elias sitting alone. The fisherman had lived by the river all his life. His name was Kavi, and the villagers often spoke about his strange wisdom. They said he understood the mind the way he understood water. He knew how to move through emotions the way he moved through waves. Many people had spoken to him in times of confusion and returned feeling lighter. Kavi approached slowly and asked, "Why do you look like a man carrying a mountain on his shoulders?" Elias looked up. He did not know the fisherman well, but something about the man's calm face made him answer honestly. "My mind is never quiet. Every day feels heavy. I cannot stop thinking. I want peace, but I don't know how to find it."
Kavi studied him silently. His eyes were soft, like someone who had seen many storms and survived each one. After a moment, he said, "A full mind cannot feel peace. When a cup is full, nothing new can enter. If you want calm, you must learn how to empty your mind." Elias frowned. "Empty my mind? How can I do that? I cannot throw my thoughts away." Kavi smiled gently. "You cannot throw them away, but you can stop feeding them. You can stop giving them the seat of honor in your mind." Elias did not fully understand, but the idea stayed with him. He followed Kavi to his small hut near the river. The inside was simple: a wooden table, a mat, a few tools for fishing, and a kettle warming over a small fire. Kavi poured tea into 2 clay cups and placed one in front of Elias. They sat quietly for a while. Elias noticed that in this silence, the sound of the river became louder and clearer. His mind was still busy, but the presence of the old fisherman created a small space of calm. Kavi finally broke the silence. "You remind me of a young man I once knew," he said. "He too believed his thoughts were stronger than him. But he learned something that changed his life. And I will show it to you too, if you are willing." Elias nodded earnestly. "I will do anything. I am tired of living like this." Kavi stood up, took a clay jar from the corner, and placed it in front of Elias. The jar was filled to the top with small stones. "Tell me," he said, "is this jar full?" Elias nodded. "Yes, it is completely full." Kavi smiled as though expecting that answer. He then scooped a handful of fine sand and poured it into the jar. The sand slid easily between the stones until it filled all the empty spaces. "Now, is it full?" Elias hesitated. "Yes, now it looks full." But Kavi was not done. He lifted a cup of water and poured it into the jar. The water slowly seeped in, settling around the sand and stones until it reached the rim. Kavi placed the jar in front of Elias and said, "Your mind is this jar." Elias stared at it, trying to understand. Kavi continued, "Your thoughts are the stones, your worries are the sand, your fears are the water. You keep filling your mind with everything at once. Even the smallest thing finds a way inside. That is why you feel heavy. That is why your mind never rests." Elias listened carefully. Kavi leaned closer. To empty the mind does not mean having no thoughts at all. It means creating space. It means putting the right things first. It means allowing silence inside you so peace can breathe. Elias looked at the jar again. For the first time in months, he felt a glimmer of hope. "Teach me how," he whispered. Kavi nodded. "I will, but you must be patient. Emptying the mind is not something you do once. It is something you practice every day. Start with a simple task. Tomorrow, at sunrise, meet me by the big rock near the river. Come with your mind ready to learn." Elias agreed and went home that night with a small spark of calm inside him. It was not much, but it was more than he had felt in a long time.
The next morning arrived quietly. A soft layer of mist floated above the river, and the first light of the sun touched the tops of the trees with a gentle glow. Elias walked toward the big rock where Kavi had asked him to meet. His mind was already active, filling itself with questions. What would the old fisherman teach him today? What if he failed? What if nothing could change his restless mind? The thoughts crowded in, but he kept walking. When he reached the rock, he found Kavi sitting cross-legged on the ground, his eyes closed as though he were listening to something far away. His back was straight and his breathing was slow. Elias did not want to disturb him, so he stood quietly to the side. After a moment, Kavi opened his eyes and gestured for Elias to sit beside him. "You came early," Kavi said. "That means you are ready." "I want to learn," Elias replied. Kavi nodded. He took a wooden bowl filled with water and placed it between them. "Look at this water," he said. "Tell me what you see." Elias looked. "I see my reflection and the sky behind me." Kavi dipped his finger gently into the bowl and made a small ripple. The reflection scattered, becoming distorted and unclear. "Now what do you see?" "Nothing clearly," Elias replied. "That is your mind," Kavi said. "When it is restless, it cannot reflect anything with clarity. Your thoughts are like these ripples. They disturb the surface." Elias understood the comparison, but he still did not know how to calm the ripples. Kavi continued, "Now watch." He stopped touching the water. Slowly, the ripples weakened until the surface became still again. The reflection returned. The sky became clear. Elias watched with quiet concentration. "You cannot force the water to become still," Kavi said. "You only stop touching it. The stillness returns on its own." Elias felt something shift inside him. He had spent so much of his life trying to silence his thoughts through force. He had tried to push them away or pretend they were not there, but pushing only made them return stronger. "So I must stop fighting my thoughts?" he asked. "Exactly," Kavi said. "You must stop feeding them. Stop giving them your attention. You do not empty a room by yelling at the people inside to leave. You simply open a door and stop engaging them. They walk out on their own." Elias thought about this. The idea felt strange, almost too simple, yet it made sense. Kavi stood up. "I have a task for you today," he said. "It will teach you how to stop touching the water of your mind." Elias listened closely. Kavi pointed toward a narrow path leading into a small forest. "Walk into the forest and find the old mango tree. It stands alone and has been there longer than any of us. Sit under it, close your eyes, and for 1 hour, observe your breath. Not your thoughts, not the sounds, only your breath. Do not try to control anything, just sit." Elias swallowed. 1 hour? That sounds difficult. Kavi smiled softly. "Your mind will not like it. It will try to talk to you. It will try to distract you, but do not fight. Let it speak, but do not follow. Keep returning to your breath. If you fail, do not get frustrated. Start again. An hour of practice is better than a lifetime of thinking." Elias nodded, though he was unsure of his ability. He walked toward the forest. The path was narrow and lined with wildflowers. Birds sang from the branches above, and the air smelled fresh, as if the world was waking up with him. After a short walk, he saw the old mango tree. Its roots spread widely across the ground, and its trunk was thick with age. Elias sat beneath it and closed his eyes. At first, he focused on his breathing. He noticed the cool air entering his nose and the warm air leaving. But within moments, his mind began its usual routine. It reminded him of unfinished chores. It replayed old mistakes. It imagined future problems. Thoughts rose and fell like waves, distractingly loud. Elias grew frustrated. He wanted to stop thinking. He wanted silence. But trying to force silence only made the thoughts louder. He remembered Kavi's words, "Do not fight, do not follow." He let the thoughts pass like clouds drifting across the sky. He returned to his breath again and again. Minutes passed, though they felt like hours. But slowly, something unusual began to happen. The thoughts came, but they felt less heavy. They passed more easily. The space between them grew wider. For brief moments, his mind felt light, almost empty. When his hour was finally complete, Elias opened his eyes. The forest looked brighter. The air felt different. His mind did not feel silent, but it felt clearer. He returned to Kavi, who was waiting by the river. "How do you feel?" Kavi asked. "Tired," I admitted, "but also lighter." "That is the beginning," Kavi said. "You tasted what an empty mind feels like. Not silent, but spacious. The space is where peace lives." Elias sat beside him. "But how do I make this last?" he asked. Kavi pointed toward the river. "The river flows every day. It does not stop. You must practice every day too. That is how you keep your mind clear." Elias listened carefully. He felt grateful. For the first time, he believed that maybe he could truly change. Kavi placed his hand gently on Elias's shoulder. "Tomorrow, I will teach you the second lesson. Today, rest and observe. Watch how your mind behaves now. The journey has just begun." Elias nodded and walked home. His step felt lighter than before. He did not feel cured, but he felt hope, and hope was enough to carry him through the night.
The next day arrived with a soft glow over the valley. Elias woke before sunrise, feeling the memory of yesterday's calm under the mango tree. That small moment pushed him forward. He walked to the river where Kavi sat on a flat stone, quietly mending a fishing net with complete focus. Elias admired the peace that seemed to surround him. Kavi noticed him and set the net aside. "You came early again. That means you are ready for the second lesson." "I want to learn everything you can teach me," Elias said. Kavi gestured for him to sit beside him. He pointed at the flowing river. Yesterday you learned how to return to your breath. Today I want to show you what happens when you hold on to your thoughts." He picked up a small leaf and placed it on the water. It drifted away with the current. "What do you see?" Kavi asked. "The leaf is moving. The river is carrying it," Elias replied. "Exactly. That is what thoughts naturally do. They come, they go. They pass unless you grab them." Then Kavi placed another leaf on the river. "Imagine reaching in and holding it still." "The river moves, but the leaf stays," Elias said. "That is what happens when you cling to a thought. You stop its natural movement. You turn something small into a burden." Kavi then placed the leaf in Elias's hand. "Your mind produces countless thoughts. Most are meant to drift away, yet you catch them, examine them, and keep them alive. A thought becomes memory, then regret, and then fear. Fear fills your mind until there is no space left." Elias nodded slowly. "So I must learn to stop holding on." "Yes. Let your thoughts come and let them go. This is how the mind empties." Kavi led Elias to a quieter curve of the river and sat on the ground. "Today you will watch your thoughts the way you watched the leaves. Do not follow them, judge them, or fight them. Simply observe." Elias felt nervous, but he trusted Kavi. He closed his eyes and began. Immediately, thoughts rushed in. Chores, old conversations, worries about the future. His mind pulled him in many directions, but he remembered Kavi's words, "Do not hold, do not follow." He pictured the leaves drifting on the river. Each thought appeared, moved, and faded. Some were heavy, some strange, some fast. He let them all pass. Minutes felt long. His legs tingled, his back ached, and his mind tried its best to distract him. But slowly, something changed. The thoughts felt lighter. The space between them widened. The river inside him calmed. He opened his eyes. The river glimmered under the sunlight. He felt tired but clearer, like a knot inside him had loosened. Kavi studied him. "How do you feel?" "Different," Elias answered. "Like watching my mind from outside." That is the beginning of an empty mind. You become the observer, not the prisoner. Kavi stood. "Meet me at sunset near the old bridge. Tonight you will learn how to create inner space." Elias walked home with a quieter mind. The village looked the same, yet he felt changed, finally taking real steps toward peace. The sun dipped low behind the hills, casting a warm golden light over the village. Elias walked toward the old wooden bridge where Kavi had asked him to come. The air felt cooler now, and the river reflected the colors of the sunset like a canvas painted with molten gold and soft orange. Elias felt calmer than he had felt in many years, though his mind still whispered its familiar thoughts. When he reached the bridge, he saw Kavi sitting on the railing, his feet hanging above the water. He looked peaceful, as if he had been waiting without any rush. "You came," Kavi said with a gentle smile. "I am ready for the final lesson," Elias replied. Kavi nodded and stood up. He tapped the railing of the bridge and said, "Look down at the water." Elias leaned forward and saw the reflection of the sky, the bridge, and his own face staring back at him. The river moved slowly, carrying the reflection along with it. Kavi walked to the center of the bridge. "Elias, you have learned how to return to your breath. You have learned how to let your thoughts pass like leaves on the river. Now it is time for you to learn the most important lesson of all." Elias listened with full attention. Kavi continued, "The mind becomes full because you believe everything it shows you. You believe every thought is important. You believe every memory is real. You believe every fear has power. But thoughts are nothing more than reflections in the water. They look real, they feel real, but they are not the truth. Elias looked down again at the reflection in the river. As the water moved, his face distorted and changed shape. The reflection he saw a moment ago was gone, replaced by another one. Kavi pointed at it. That is your mind, always shifting, always moving, yet you try to hold it still. You try to understand every reflection. You try to control every thought. Elias watched the ripples break the reflection again and again. Kavi continued, if you want to empty your mind, you must stop giving strength to these reflections. Let them appear. Let them disappear. Do not chase them. Do not fight them. Do not build stories around them. Elias breathed deeply. Kavi reached into his pocket and took out a small, smooth stone. Hold this, he said. Elias took the stone. It was cool and solid in his palm.
Kavi said, throw it into the water. Elias hesitated. Why? Throw it, Kavi repeated. Elias drew his arm back and tossed the stone into the river. It sank instantly, creating a single circular ripple that spread wider and wider until it faded. Kavi asked, what happened to the ripple? It disappeared, Elias replied. What forced it to disappear? Nothing, Elias said. It faded on its own. And that, Kavi said softly, is your final lesson. Elias felt the meaning settle inside him. Kavi walked closer and placed a steady hand on his shoulder. Your thoughts are ripples. You cannot stop them from forming, but you can let them fade. And they always fade when you stop touching them. Elias looked at the water again. The surface was calm now, smooth like glass. It reflected the sky clearly. Kavi continued, when you stop giving energy to the thoughts that disturb you, when you stop following memories that hurt you, when you stop imagining fears that have not happened, your mind begins to empty, not into darkness, but into clarity. Elias felt something loosen deep inside him. Years of mental noise suddenly seemed less powerful. Kavi took a breath and said, listen carefully. Peace does not come from removing thoughts. Peace comes from not being controlled by them. The mind empties when you stop clinging. It empties when you let go. Elias lowered his head, feeling a warmth in his chest he had not felt in years. I understand, he said quietly. I finally understand. Kavi smiled. Good. Then the lessons are complete. But remember, understanding is not the end. Practice is the path. You must return to your breath every day. You must watch your thoughts drift every day. You must let go every day. This is how you keep your mind clear. Elias nodded. He felt grateful in a way he could not express. The restless young man who once felt trapped inside his own thoughts now had a path. He had tools. He had hope. They stood together on the bridge for a long time, watching the river flow. Neither of them spoke. They did not need words. The silence was enough. As the last light disappeared behind the hills, Elias bowed to Kavi with deep respect. Thank you, he said. You have given me a new life. Kavi smiled gently. You gave it to yourself. I only pointed the way. Elias turned and began walking home. The night air was cool, the stars were slowly appearing, and the moon was rising over the valley. For the first time in a very long time, Elias felt truly present. His mind was not empty of all thoughts, but it was empty of the weight that once crushed him. He walked with peace. He walked with clarity. He walked with a mind finally learning how to let go. And so his story became a reminder to anyone who listened. Peace is not somewhere far away. Peace begins the moment you release what no longer deserves space inside you. Thank you for staying with this story. If you found it meaningful, you can share it with someone who needs a moment of calm. Until our next story, stay peaceful and stay present.